Hey everybody, it's 80s Child, aka You Brought Me Home, aka Lisa, here with another Charmed review. Okay, I know my last review was not that positive. Honestly, I did not think that I was going to be doing any more reviews of this show, but I thought that it would be a good idea to, I guess, hold on one second. Ugh, hot in here. I thought it would be a good idea to give the show a second chance of sorts. So I'm going to, because even I know that you can't judge a show's abilities or whether or not it's going to be good based on one episode, especially based on the pilot. Because it does take time for television shows, new ones, to find their footing. It can take, I mean, even the original Charmed, it took, a good season's worth of episodes before, or at least halfway through the first season for the show to be solid, for the character development to be solid. So I'm willing to give it a couple more episodes just to see if it improves. So if it doesn't, it doesn't. But I'll probably give it I'll say like the first 4 or 5. And if I don't see some sort of definite improvement, character-wise, writing-wise, overall plot-wise, then yeah, I'll probably walk away. So, back to the episode at hand. This is Charm 2018, Season 1, Episode 2, Let This Mother Out. I feel like I should have a list of notes. I don't like interrupting my viewing time with writing things down, but there is so much to unpack in this episode. Okay. So this episode literally takes up right where the last episode leaves off, which kind of not sure if that's the best way to go. I don't mind if they took it up like a day or two after the last episode, where they were still kind of, if it shows them kind of still trying to figure out who this person was in the Ouija board and why they said what they said about Harry. But to have it take up just that same instant is anticlimactic. So, if you remember from the end of the last episode, who the person who they believe is their mother, coming to them in this Ouija board, has told them that they should not trust Harry. And so far, the only person that understands the magical world that they have now been thrust into is Harry. So to hear this kind of comes as a shock to them, and they don't know what to do about it, because they're really not that well educated when it comes to magic and the magical world as a whole. Ah, wow. This whole episode could be summed up by one sentence. Read the book. Read the book. Read the motherfucking book. Anyhow. So Harry's behind them. He's like, "Oh, what's up? You called." And they're like, "We didn't call you." Yes, you did. You in fact very well did. And that's a whole running gag through the episode, which is why they referred him as Meghan Markle instead of Harry, because they don't want him to show up every time they mention his name. And he's like, "Why would I show up every time you mention my name?" And they say to him, "Well, that's what you said, that if we needed you, you'd call Harry." And no. If you call out with feeling, like, "Harry!" then I will come. But if you just say, "Harry," Harry, yeah, come on. Why in the world would I come every single time you say my name? That's ridiculous. And yeah, It is fucking ridiculous. um, even the original girls knew that Leo wasn't going to come every time they said Leo. That's why usually they, as movie nights likes to put her own personal twist on it. Leo, Leo, because you have to say it with oomph, with feeling, with fear or something, or some sort of desire or need to have him there. You don't just say, "Oh, Leo," and he appears. No, that's just not going to work. And for the show to have to explain this point, it's like, okay, I know that millennials can be sort of obtuse at times, but that's a little much. Like, I don't think they're that. Come on now. Anyhow, so they don't want to tell him anything. They're trying to act normal, and they don't want to lead him on to believe that anything's wrong until they figure out who they're going to believe, the Ouija board or Harry. So he goes on about his way, and they have to come up with a plan. Now, at the outset, the girls believe that this is their mother because, they are not that far removed from her death. They still haven't gotten over it yet. They're grieving still, and they desperately want to believe this is her so they can talk to her and they can have their questions answered, and they could, I guess, say the goodbye that they were never given. Macy, being the scientific mind, she's skeptical that this could be her because I guess her scientific mind has always trained her to be skeptical and to need solid proof that, something is real before she's going to believe it. Which, I don't know how far that's going to get her in the magical world, because what you see is not always what you get in the magical world, and the proof isn't always in the pudding. I know I'm using a lot of cliches, but it's the truth. Science and magic don't always mix unless done properly, and I don't know how far Macy's going to get in this until she learns to somehow balance the magic and science, because right now she's just all about the science, and it's enough to drive a person bonkers. So she figures that she can figure out well, they don't believe her, and they say, well, it's 2 against 1. And Macy's like, I thought this was supposed to be all about the power of 3, not the power of 2 against 1. And I'm with her in this. I'm like, what happened to the power of 3? This show is called Charmed for the power of 3, not the power of 2 against 1. Now, I will admit that this is a natural progression of them, the 3 of them, learning to suss each other out and learn how to trust each other and figure each other out and learn how to live with each other as sisters, because Macy is new to the situation. She's new to having these sisters. She's new in the house. She's new to all of it. So the 3 of them are kind of learning each other, kind of feeling each other out, which is very close to how the situation was when Paige first moved in to the manor in the original Charmed. It took the 3 of them time to, definitely took Piper and Phoebe time to learn how to deal with Paige's ways, because Paige had been on her own for so long, and she was very set in her ways about how she did things. And when she moved in the house, Piper and Phoebe were very set in their ways and how they did things, and at first they didn't entirely mesh, and they had to kind of learn how to work together and how to live together. So that, seeing that happen with Macy and Mel and Maggie is realistic. I'm glad that they haven't forgotten that it needs to be more realistic. That being said, there is still some reactions that the girls have that don't seem aptly timed. Macy first says that she desperately wants to talk to her mother too, and wants her own questions answered. But then at the same time, she's still skeptical that this person that's in the Ouija board is even their mother. But then at the end of the episode, she's so happy to see her and is hugging her and wants all these questions answered and wants to talk to her and is sad when they realize it's not her. And then when they vanquish the demon who's pretending to be her, she has no reaction at all. And she verbally says to them, well, I'm not going to react the way that you guys are because I didn't know her the way that you did. So I can't grieve like that. Okay, she needs to choose something because her reactions is all over the place. I understand her frame of mind in that her grief would not be the same as theirs because they had her their entire lives. She did not. So she might not grieve the same way. But then again, she has a whole different level of grief going on because, in a way, she's lost her mother twice. First being abandoned as an infant, and then thinking she got her back, only to realize that it wasn't her to begin with. And her mother, first her mother dies before she's able to meet her, and then she thinks she gets her back, only to realize that it's not her. So her grief is in a totally different schemata. But I will commend Madeline Mantock. This was a good episode for her, and it showcased her conflict very well. So they don't know necessarily who the person is on the Ouija board, but they're desperate to believe that it is their mother. They outrule Macy 2-1, but Macy's not giving up, and when they try to use it to contact their mother, you see that a hand shoots out of it and grabs, is it Maggie or Mel? I'm not sure, grabs one of the girls as Macy's coming back home, and she's like, I thought we agreed not to call anything out of this Ouija board because it's dangerous, we don't know who it is. And even Harry says to them, don't trust any spirit you contact in the Ouija board. They're notorious for being used by trickster spirits or demons to manipulate people. Of course, they have such little knowledge of the magical world that they just don't care. They're so desperate to talk to their mother that they just don't care. I like to think that this whole episode could have been avoided if, here's a thought, pick up the book. The Book of Shadows. Open the Book of Shadows. Read the motherfucking Book of Shadows. Okay, if you did, now I'm not saying that the spells in the Book of Shadows are the same as the spells in the original Charmed, but I'm willing to fucking bet that there is a spell in that book called Call the Dead. If there's one in the original Charmed, I'm pretty fucking certain there probably should be one in the new Charmed. Hear my call, hear my cry, spirits from the other side. Yeah. It could have been done in a much more practical way. Same thing with the truth serum. Okay. That argument aside about whether or not the thing in the Ouija board is their mother, the biggest deal is figuring out whether or not they can trust Harry. And if Harry is who he says that he is. I know a lot of fans online were saying, well, he might not be a white lighter because he's not orbing. But just because he's not orbiting, that doesn't mean anything. We already know that the special effects in this television show are completely different than what we knew. It is good that they've been updated for modern times, but there is something to be said for practical effects. Anyway, they find in the book, the one instance where they actually read the book, a truth serum potion that if the person drinks it, that for 24 hours they have to speak nothing but the truth. They didn't need the book for a truth serum. You do realize that there are truth serums online, sodium pentothal, the makeup of which is available to people online, and just Google and you will find it. As a scientist, I would think that Macy would know about this already. It would have made more sense if, like in the original Charmed, it was a truth spell. They're witches. They're supposed to use spells. This is not to say that they're not supposed to use potions, but the potions should be something distinctly magical that use magical ingredients, not shit you can buy off the shelf. Or not something that's well known in the law enforcement community, and the ingredients of which and the makeup of which can be found online and have been in scientific existence for many, many years. That's kind of dumb. That would almost be like them finding, like, whoever wrote the book finding out the ingredients for sodium pentothal and just writing it down in the book and calling it truth serum. I mean, come on, it's kind of dumb. But anyway, Macy says that she's going to make it, and they're going to give it to Harry and his tea and ask him questions, and depending on what his answers are, they'll find out whether or not he's who he says he is. Maggie is all too happy to leave the witchy stuff to them so that she can go and continue to rush her sorority. Oh my god. She's freaking out because the blonde chick from the first episode, the one that Mel threw the baking soda on, still hasn't quite forgiven her for what she did, and she's really trying to kiss her ass in order to complete rushing. So she's gotten a message to meet the sorority sisters at the hospital because they're going to the hospital room of a patient there, a girl who's in a coma. Apparently, in the last episode, she was one of the ones that was originally possessed by this gloopy, gloppy, venom-like demon. Harbinger of evil, whatever Harry wants to call it. And they figure if they go in there and they see her and they give her good vibes, that will help her come back. But Maggie's concerned that because there was no exclamation point, that means that this chick is still angry at her for what happened. Again, with the text boxes. No one gives a shit about your fucking texting on your fucking phone. Seriously. Unless it has something to do with how your mind works, please avoid it. It's just stupid. You want to show us the emotion of your worry over this thing? That's what acting is for. So they go to the hospital, they surround the bed, and the girl wants them to hold hands. And since Maggie's the last one to get there, she has to hold the hand of the girl that's in the hospital bed. And when she holds her hand, she gets a vision of the creature possessing her and then leaving her body and going to somebody else's body. I forgot to mention at the beginning of this episode, the very first scene you see, because it takes up right where the last one left off, a female custodian is in the lab cleaning up the mess that the girls made when they vanquished the Thane, whatever the hell his name was, ice dude. And while she's there cleaning it up, the demon appears and tries to possess her, but it doesn't work, and she winds up in a coma. So she's in the same hospital, just in a different room. That's what Maggie sees, and she's kind of freaked out a little bit. The girls are like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Oh my god. She just explains that she has a thing about hospitals and family drama, because family drama really explains why you would when you touch a person's hand. Whatever. So now she's got to go home and explain to her sisters what she saw. So Macy makes the truth serum. And in the other subplot of the show, we have Mel and Nico. Apparently they've gotten back together. Nico's coming over to bring her some lunch before she heads into work. And everything seems to be okay. But Nico doesn't know about what's going on. I don't know if Nico's going to become the new Daryl, or later on down the line she finds out like Daryl did, or what. I would like to think that she doesn't become the new Andy, because we all know what happened to Andy. And that would kind of suck. They make a cute couple, but again, I still feel like it's being, it's checking off a box. It should not be stereotyped. Really. And again, this nothing against the actress playing Mel. I just feel like they have stereotyped her as the quintessential angry, man-hating lesbian, and it shouldn't be that way at all. So they're discussing their relationship. Macy comes in to give Mel, or to tell Mel that she finished the potion or the serum, but she has to cut herself off because Nico doesn't know. And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I came at the wrong time." And she has the serum in like a thermos, in a silver thermos, and she puts it on the table while they're all talking. And what she doesn't realize is that Nico also had a thermos that she brought with her. It was part of her lunch. And it looks almost exactly like Macy's thermos. It's just shorter. And she accidentally grabs the wrong thermos. So Macy goes back to the college with Nico's thermos and leaves the thermos with the serum there, which is the one that Nico takes. And right off the bat, you already know, oh, this is not going to end well. Not going to end well at all. So what winds up happening is that Nico drinks it, and while she's in an interrogation with a suspect, she's just blah, 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 and starts blabbing like, oh, we don't have enough evidence on you, so we're probably going to let you go anyway, so there's no reason for you to actually say anything, blah, blah, blah. And her partner's just looking at her like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, and when Mel realizes what happened, because Macy takes what she thinks is the serum over to the college, and she figures out some reason to get Harry into the common area alone, and she sits down with him and they have tea, and she's expecting that when he drinks the tea that he'll immediately start blabbing, and she's sitting there while he drinks it and nothing's happening, and you can already tell that Harry is like, something about this shit ain't right, because they're definitely not acting right. When she realizes the mistake she made, she calls Mel to let her know what was going on, because she knows that Nico or somebody has probably grabbed that. And that's when Mel realizes, oh shit, Nico grabbed the thermos, I gotta go get her. So she runs down to the police station to stop her from making any, embarrassing mistakes. And while she's dragging her out of the police station, Nico starts going off on different officers. One of them, she says, there's this thing called personal space. Another one, she's like, I can't translate the menu to the Chinese restaurant, because guess what? I'm not Chinese. Just random stuff. And then she takes her hair down and she throws her glasses in the garbage because she says she doesn't need them, because she doesn't want people to see her only as the hot Japanese chick. She wants them to see her as, a person. But now, because of the truth serum, she's like, I'm glad I'm hot. There's nothing wrong with being hot. And then she accidentally tells Mel a secret that Mel was not supposed to hear. That while they were broken up for those 3 months after Mel's mother died, that she had a booty call twice with her ex-fiance, ex-girlfriend, whatever, who apparently Nico left the girlfriend for Mel. And Mel's like, I'm sorry, what? You slept with your ex twice? Are you serious? And Mel is pissed off. Nico feels guilty, but technically this is not something that Mel was supposed to hear. And this is why truth spells and truth serums can get kind of hairy, because you cast that kind of spell wanting to get the truth from somebody about something very specific, but then you wind up getting the truth about everything. And a good example is what happened when Prue used the truth. She used the truth spell at the end of season 1 because she was debating whether or not to tell Andy the truth about them being witches, but she was afraid about how he would take it. She was afraid that if he told him the truth, that he would not accept it, and he would leave. And she would lose him, and she didn't want to lose him. So she's decided, well, why don't I cast this truth spell? Because it only lasts for 24 hours, and then after the 24 hours is up, everything goes back to the way it was before, and he won't remember anything. So there's really nothing to lose. So she cast the truth spell. She told him the truth, and if I remember right, it didn't initially go the way that she wanted to, because other things got out too. Things that she didn't want to get out, and he didn't take it well. He wasn't afraid of her, but I think he was more upset that he had been lied to. And yeah, it didn't end well. And then the 24 hours passed, and the spell was broken, and everything went back to the way it was. And he didn't remember anything. So that's when she decided she wasn't going to tell him yet, because she didn't feel that he was ready, and she was too afraid. And it wasn't until the very end of the season, when he died, off camera, I might add, assholes, that he realized what had happened in the first place. So yeah, truth spells and truth serums, stuff like that, are very sketchy and very difficult to use, and you have to be very careful when you use stuff like that. I would have thought by now that they would understand the whole no personal gain rule, because that was probably the first instance through casting that truth spell that they realized that there was a personal gain issue. It didn't really hit home until like the first episode of season 2, when they were whisked into the future and saw what happened when, Piper froze the guy walking the dog, because the dog kept pooping in their driveway. And what they didn't realize was the guy that she froze was a person who would eventually become an anti-witch, like, crazy person, and he was the one that wound up arresting Phoebe and burning her at the stake in the future. That was their first instance of like really hitting home and understanding, personal gain. I mean, okay, it's not to say that as the seasons wore on that there weren't instances of personal gain where there shouldn't have been, but the point is that this just drives home that the girls, it seems like they're using the book when it's convenient, or when it can do something for them. Like when Macy was angry at them for using the spirit board, even though she thought they had agreed that it wasn't safe because they didn't know whether they could trust whoever this person was. She comes home and she sees them using it, and they don't want to stop. They overrule her, so she breaks the board. And they get pissed off because the board has been in their family for many years. So what do? They go looking in the Book of Shadows to find some sort of spell or potion that they can use to fix the board. Technically, that could be considered personal gain. They would know this if they'd read the book. They would know about trickster demons and demons that hide in spirit boards if they read the book. They would know about prophecy more and what it involves, and who might be coming after them, including this harbinger of evil, this black venomy goo demon, if they read the book. And they would know what to do with the demon who's pretending to be their mother, who apparently only has the power of persuasion, like, not persuasion necessarily, but emotional manipulation. That is not a power. That is something that any normal person can do if they have the skill. That is not a demonic power. That is fucking ridiculous. That tells me that, we didn't have time to think of what this demon's real power was, and we didn't want to spend the money on the special effects. So we're going to make it look scary, but not really do anything in particular. Just, fight. We're going to make it look like it's trying to kick the charmed one's ass, but that's really about it. All demons have powers of some sort. Whether passive or active, they have powers. Emotional manipulation is not a fucking power. Now, if they can read your thoughts, or if they're empaths and can read your emotions and use that to manipulate you, then okay. But for a demon to just not have a power and all the demon can do is just, do a cold read on you and then emotionally manipulate you based on, what you're feeling in your heart. Any person with half a brain can do that. Not a demon, just a human being. And it really shows a lack of research on the writer's part, a lack of forethought, a lack of give a fuck. I don't know who's writing these episodes, but are you serious? Are you really serious? The least y'all could do is some moderate amount of research. The demon doesn't have to be spectacular, but it at least needs to be a demon that is a demon, like with powers. I mean, come on. So, the Nico situation is handled. They come home, and then all of a sudden everything turns on its head, and they hear their mother's voice come out of the spirit board, and now they're for certain that this is their mother, and they want to get her out. They have the spell to do it, but still, there's an overruling in this that not all three of them are together on this. Macy is still not sure. But Mel and Maggie are so desperate to talk to their mother that they overrule her, and they wind up casting the spell anyway, freeing this thing that they believe is their mother, that looks like their mother. And the demon, well, first they have to incapacitate Harry, which they do, because they can't necessarily trust him, even though Harry already told them, don't believe a spirit that comes to you in the spirit board. They're tricksters. They're lying to you. And you think Harry knows what he's talking about. He is a white lighter after all. So the spirit convinces them that Harry is trying to take their powers, that he's not a white lighter, that he's evil, and he wants to trap their powers in a prism, and that the prism is in their mother's office. They just have to go get it. So the girls all go, and they find a mirror that has some Latin written on the outside of it. And Macy apparently knows enough scientific Latin to be dangerous. So she translates it for them. And they understand, and through that, they understand that all three of them have to go, all three of them have to step through it. So all three of them step through. They're in this weird mirror realm where they're surrounded by mirrors. Very supernaturally, if you ask me. And in the middle of the room, there is a triangular object, a pyramid-like object, and they believe that the prism is inside, but they got to figure out how to open it. At this point, Matt to wonder if this person who says that this is their mother is really their mother. She's starting to have questions, and as the telepath, I would think she'd be the first one to question the whole thing, because when their mother first came out of the board, she hugged Mel, and then she hugged Maggie. And when Maggie touched her, normally with empaths, she can, because of her power, her telepathic power, she can read a person's thoughts. And this person did not have any thoughts at all. Now, Marisol says, oh, it's because I'm not really a person, I'm just a spirit. And she kind of buys it, but at the same time, in her eyes, it didn't seem right. It didn't set right with her. So when they're in the Hall of Mirrors and they have to get the prism out, they figure out that they all have to be, because the Latin above the door was like 3 as 1. So they figure out that all 3 of them have to be touching the prism or the pyramid at the same time to open it up so they can get to the prism. Now, Macy and Mel are all bored, but Maggie is still kind of like, I'm not sure, this doesn't seem right. I'm really not sure that this person is actually Mom, or are you sure this is a good idea? And at this point, Macy just does this quick 180 turn, like, well, of course, don't you want to talk to Mom? And don't you, blah, blah, blah. Why would you think that it would? But weren't you the one earlier in the episode that said that you didn't believe that it was your mother? I mean, that doesn't make sense. So they literally have to grab her hand because, again, power 3 doesn't exist here. It's just the power of 2 against 1. And they slap her hand on the other side of the prism. So all 3 of them are touching it at the same time, and it opens up, and the prism is inside. So now they have the prism, and then all of the mirrors begin to shatter, and they're not sure if they're going to be able to get out. So they realize that they have to work together as 1, 3 as 1, not 2 against 1, but 3 as 1 to get out. And they do, and they eventually make it out of the prism, out of the mirror realm. I think this is when they start to realize that this 2 against 1 bullshit is just not working. So they go back to the house, and when they get there, Harry and the demon are beating the ever-living fuck out of each other. Harry is bruised and bleeding and all fucked up, and he's trying his best to take the demon down, and the demon is very strong and limber. And at first, they're not sure who they should believe. So, sorry, my phone lost power. So, yeah, so they're beating the immortal shit out of each other, and the 3 girls come home, and they don't know who to side with. They're conflicted. Is Harry who he says he is, or is he not? Or is she not? But then when the mother reveals her true face, or I should say her eyes, because that's really all she revealed, that's when they realize that this is not their mother. And in quick fashion, through Mel freezing her with her power, and Macy using some telekinesis, they manage to take on. They vanquish her, and that's the end of that. So now they have to apologize to Harry for not believing him in the first place, and for putting him through all this mess for no real reason that, could have been solved if they had just read a fucking book, or read the fucking book like they're supposed to. These are supposed to be smart, strong women, and yet they don't even have the foresight to sit down and read the damn book. I mean, I know even in the original series, Phoebe was the one to really get into the book first, but after they realized that they were witches, all 3 of them read that book and made sure they knew everything that was in it. Every time they had a question, or they had a demon or a warlock issue, they went to the book. They didn't constantly have to go, Harry, 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 Harry. Harry should not have to be explaining every single thing about witchcraft to them. It is their responsibility as grown-ass women, and as the charmed ones, to read the motherfucking book. Please. Ugh. So now they don't know what to do with the prism. And they realize that the prism actually can take their powers if they're not careful. I guess it's kind of a throwback to the bell that was used at the end of season 1. So they give it to Harry and then tell Harry to put it back in the mirror. in their mother's office, which is now his office. And they finally come to terms, this kind of represents not only their accepting of Harry as their white lighter guardian, but also the fact that their mother is gone and she's not coming back. There was a little subplot in there where Macy was moving in, and they had her moving into, and she was putting some of her stuff out, and she went to just move a picture, and Mel was in there. Was like, oh no, don't do that, because oh no, Maggie was in there. Oh no, don't do that. That's precious. And she's like, oh, okay. And then there was like this bong thing that Maggie had made when she was in elementary school, I guess, because she apparently found a bong in their mother's closet when they were children, and she didn't know what it was and accidentally broke it. She felt bad, so she made it for her in art class, and it was hideous looking, but to Maggie, it was a very important representation of her childhood and a connection with their mom. But she didn't want her to move it either. She wanted her to leave it on the dresser, which really didn't leave any room for Macy's things. So that is also a very natural progression of grief, that they were kind of still not accepting the fact that their mother was gone, and they were kind of using her room as a shrine. Nobody had slept in it, been in it, or even touched it since she had died 3 months before. So then, by Maggie taking the bong for herself and putting it in her own room, and then putting the picture somewhere else, and allowing Macy to make the room her own, it feels like they're finally accepting her into the household. They're accepting her as a sister, and they're accepting the fact that their mother is gone and she's not coming back. So that is pretty much... Oh, and Mel and Nico kind of have a conversation about that whole ex-girlfriend thing, and they make nice about that. I mean, Mel's still not entirely happy about it, but she understands that Nico didn't mean to say those things, and it wasn't for her ears. So she kind of lets it go, since it's in the past anyway. And they were technically apart when it happened. And they also apologized to Harry. Mel was like, I trust you. I don't like you, but I do trust you. I'm like, what about him? What the hell has he done to make you not like him other than him having a penis? Seriously, he's not done anything to piss you off. He's done nothing but try to be helpful. He got his face dented in because you guys were too stupid to sit your asses down and read a damn book. And you still gonna hate him because he's male? This misandry bullshit is for the birds. Like, seriously, for the birds. And needs to go. If that shit doesn't stop, I swear I'm gonna walk away from this fucking show. I mean, I am just as feminist as anybody else, but there is a line, and it's just too fucking much. It's one thing to, want to support women and be against men who actively oppress women. That's one thing. But to just hate men for the simple fact that they have a penis and that they're male? Yeah, no. No. Absolutely not. Another thing in this episode that made them question whether or not Harry could be trusted was that when Macy was in the hospital going to see the janitor who had gotten hurt at the beginning of the episode, she walked into the janitor's hospital room and she saw Harry there doing something to the janitor, and Harry said that he was taking away the memories of what she saw so that, magic wouldn't be compromised. I don't like the idea of that, because Leo was very explicit about that, about the whole memory dust thing, that you have to be very careful when you use it, or you could take more than you're supposed to take. And once you take, you can't get it back. So it's kind of... I don't particularly like that. At first I thought he was healing her. It would have been cool because it wasn't right that she got hurt. She was in seriously, people. 2 episodes in and not one single innocent saved except for the ex-boyfriend. And the ex-boyfriend is not even going to be an issue anymore because they weren't sexy thoughts. They were like, they was thinking of everything he could think of to so that he couldn't get like up. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because he doesn't have feelings for her, and she doesn't have feelings for him. A friends with benefits thing going on, but it's not really serving a purpose. So, in an actual show of real growth, and Maggie goes to him and says, "I don't mind us being friends, but I think we both just aren't there anymore, and it's not right for us to keep doing this." With him once and for all, which is probably the best thing for her right now at this point in her life. So I was glad to see that she did have that growth. Overall, the show still has a lot of problems. I feel like there's very little attention paid to the family history, to where they get their powers from, who's the head of their line, because I don't believe that it was Melinda. I just don't. And what's worse is that the girls just don't seem to care. Like I said before, they seem to use the book when it's necessary for them. Otherwise, I think they kind of act like they wish they could just get rid of it. Like, they wish it was just not there. They have no love for this book. They have no understanding of their past. They have no grasp of how important that they are as individuals and as witches. They have like no... It's hard to explain. They just don't seem to care until it affects them personally. Until they need the book to deal with whatever problem. At least in the original series, the girls, they had a deep appreciation for their past, for their family line, for who they were as witches, for the strength in that family, and how important that their powers were, and what a gift it truly was. These girls, it just feels like to me that they act as though the magic is, and the witchcraft is just something that's in the way and inconvenient until it's not anymore. It really irks the shit out of me to no end. Well, anyway, that is my review for episode 2. Episode 3 will be on tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. Like I said, giving it a couple more episodes to iron itself out. If I don't see some definite improvements, well, that'll be the end of this for me. Alright, guys, I'll see you later on the flip side. Bye.